Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our YouTube live stream. And today we're working on chord progressions and specifically revising chord progressions so that we can get back up to speed with how they work. So I'm going to pop you all on to the worksheet now that we're going to work on today. And here we go. So let's have a quick look at this page, which is page number 105. So when we work through chord progressions, what we're saying is that we're listening to a series of chords that will be played to you in a row. They're not played with any fancy rhythms. They are simply played as block chords along the way, and you need to then pick them out. So Deborah Smith has provided us with the Roman numerals that are here like this. These are called your diatonic chords of a particular key. So this one's actually been done in F major. So you can see at the top of this grid, she's gone F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, which is the notes of the F major scale. Of course, the top F is not there because we don't need it because it's just a repeat of the first note. She's also included the solfa for each of those notes. Some of you like to still use solfa, which is great. And then there are the Roman numerals. So as we know, in a major scale, chord 1 is major, so F major. Chord 2 is minor, so that'd be G minor. Chord 3 is minor, A minor. Chord 4 is major, so B flat major. Chord 5 is major, C major. And we always know that chord 5 is major in any key. Chord 6 is minor, D minor. And finally, that little circle means diminished. Chord 7 is diminished. So E diminished. So when we have a chord progression played, excuse me, sorry about that. When we have a chord progression played, they will always be played in a way that the root note is in the left hand. So if it's an F major chord, for example, F will be in my left hand, the lowest note, and so on. So if it's chord 2, in this case we're in G, that lowest note will be G. Chord 3, A minor, A is in the bass. Chord 4, major, B flat is in the bass. Chord 5, G major, G is in the bass, C is in the bass, sorry, and chord 6, D, D is in the bass, and diminished, E is in the bass. And that one is actually an easy one to pick out in chord progressions because the diminished sounds a lot kind of strange, it's a little bit strange compared to the minor or major. So that's how they work. So for example, if I was to play this, you could essentially listen to my left hand and hear that it was da da da, 1 2 1. Now we know that chord 1 is major, chord 2 is minor. You can always double check that by listening to the chord. Major, minor. And so by listening to the left hand and working out which note of the scale it is that you're hearing, and then also checking with the tonality you're hearing in the right hand, you can do a bit of error correction to work out whether you've got your answer right. Some people like to try and listen for the numbers first or the notes. Some people prefer to listen to the tonality first, and then we'll go back to work on future playings on listening to the left hand. It's not a silly idea sometimes just to focus on the tonality, because for any particular chord, if you hear a major chord, it can only be 1, 4 or 5 in a major key, of course. We'll get to minor keys in a moment. If you hear a minor chord, it can only be 2, 3 or 6. And if you hear that sort of weird sounding diminished chord, it can only be 7. So that's sort of my approach to how I listen for them. I listen to both the bass note and the tonality to try and then work out which chord is which. Something else that is worth knowing in our tests and our examination, whenever we get to have those again, no exam this term, by the way, is that each chord progression will always finish with a cadence. So if you cast your mind back to when we did our 4-part vocal harmony unit last year, we learned about 4 cadences. The perfect cadence, 5-1, which is your strong ending cadence. I'll go back to C major for a minute. Has a very strong ending. Plagal, 4-1. A much more gentle ending. Also referred to as the Amen cadence, because quite often in sort of hymn music in the Christian churches, often a hymn will be sung, and at the end they use a plagal cadence to go Amen. We then have the imperfect cadence, which is sort of like, I like to think of it as the opposite of perfect, whereas perfect is 5-1, imperfect can be 1-5, or in fact it could be anything to 5, but it lands on 5, so it's the opposite to what a perfect cadence does, where it starts on 5. So it sounds like it hangs. It really sounds like it wants to keep on going. Trying to improvise on the spot as I'm live streaming. So the other cadence that we learned about was the interrupted cadence, 5-6, like the surprise cadence. And it really comes out of nowhere, hence why the interrupted is referred to as the surprise cadence. It's like, surprise, here I am. So that's another thing you can listen for, is the ending, to see if it's a strong ending, a gentle ending, or if it's unfinished, is it going 1-5 or something to 5 and wanting to move on, or is it surprise, coming out of sort of nowhere? Okay, I've talked enough. Let's get into actually practicing one of these questions. So we're not going to go into minor yet. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's have a go at this first question here. I'll change over to the camera in just a moment. So in this question, Deborah Smith has provided us with a grid where you can write the letter names of the chords and the tonalities, and that's the way you can do it in the exam. She has also provided a little bit of space up here where you can write the solfa. Me personally, I love solfa, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Kadai method, but I actually like to just think in Roman numerals too. I find that handy, so you could also always write your Roman numerals up the top here. But before we do that, we need to write out a diatonic chord chart for the key of this question. How do you know what key the question is in? Chord number 1 will always be the tonic chord. So we know that this question's in D major because that's what's written there. So, before I do anything more, I am going to now jump over to my camera and do a bit more by hand with you to show you what I would be writing to get my strategies worked out. So just changing over now. I've had a few technical issues with some of my equipment, but hopefully this webcam's going to work nicely today for us. So here we are, we're back. So here we go. Sorry about that. I was trying to aim my work out what was going on the worksheet and realised I was holding the camera in a funny angle, but here we go. Okay. So here is our question. So we worked out that we're in D major. So the first thing we should do is write out the Roman numerals for a major scale. So they are uppercase 1, lowercase 2, lowercase 3 for minor, uppercase 4 for major, uppercase 5 for major, lowercase 6 for minor, and lowercase 7 for minor. And sorry, of course there's a little diminished symbol that makes it diminished. We use a lowercase for 7 because minor is closer to diminished than major, so we use the lowercase and then add the diminished symbol. The other thing you need to do to be able to work this out is that you then need to write the D major scale above here so that you know which note is related to which Roman numeral. So we're in D major, so I'm going to pop some letters on top. D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you're probably already wondering, what about the key signature? Of course, we need to add that. So D major is how many sharps? We should know how to do these by rote now. D major, 2 sharps. F and C. Father Christmas. So with that said now, I'm going to attempt this question. I'll pop you back onto the worksheet for the moment so you can see it on your screen. If you don't have a textbook, it's not hard for you on a piece of paper now just to quickly scribble out a grid like this, something similar, and work the question still. Cool. What I'll do is I'll play this question 5 times, and then I will come back to the camera to help you work through the answer. So go back to the worksheet. I'll play this question 5 times, and then you can see how you go afterwards. Okay, so we're in D major. Make sure I can play this correctly. I should have practiced before I went. Okay, so before I started the lesson. Here we go. I'm going to play this to you 5 times. If I make a mistake, I'll stop. That's, I guess, the risk of live recording. Let's give it a go. Here's your first playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Getting my chords right. Try again. My apologies, it's a bit embarrassing being live. I'll try again. Maybe I should have just used Deborah Smith's recording. I'll do that for a future lesson, I think. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I'll play that again. This time through, now you've sort of got an idea about what you're expecting. I would strongly suggest focusing on just the tonality of each chord. Is it minor or major? Is there a diminished in there? I'll play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll play this a 3rd time. So, this time, if you've got the tonality, certainly try and focus on the letters, or the Roman numerals for the moment if you'd prefer to write them above the question. Probably a good opportunity now to have a listen and see if you can pick out the cadence. Is it a finished cadence? Is it an unfinished cadence? And then from there you can work out was it whichever of those options from there. I'll play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to play it 2 more times. I love the comments in the live stream, by the way. Thank you. Thanks for your support, Lulu. Okay, I'm going to play it again. We'll have 2 more playings. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll now play this question 1 more time before I start working through the answer with you. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. pop back to the camera and I'll take you through the answer. And I'm sure you're enjoying the lovely view of my keyboard from the end there. I'll be popping the camera up and down a little bit now. Hope you don't get seasick as we go along, because I'll need to jump over to my piano to explain things. So, first things first, I reckon we will target the cadence at the end. I'm just going to play that cadence one more time. Does it sound like it ends? No, because if it ended, it would be here. So we've got... Now, some of you might be able to hear immediately what this is, but just by the quality of the cadence, its characteristics. Another thing that can help you is, what are the tonalities of these last two chords? Da-da-da, major, da-da-da, major. So that's where we can have a look here and say, look, we know it's unfinished. I hope you all heard it was unfinished. If it was 5 to 6 interrupted, that would be minor. I'll show it here actually on the D major one. 5 to 6 would be major minor, but we were major major. So the options would be 1 to 5 imperfect or 4 to 5 imperfect. Hopefully you heard that the chords moved up by a step. So that's where you can start popping your answer in here, because it was major to major, and in this case, check back to your chart. 4 to 5 is G to A. You're welcome to write the Roman numerals above as well. In the old study design, Roman numerals were a perfectly acceptable way of answering these questions, but in the new study design, they want the full letters. So the Roman numerals won't get you any marks in the exam, but they are handy if you're using them as a strategy to work out the chords. So we've got 2 chords left. Before we move on and do anything else in terms of the bass notes, let's listen to the tonalities of those 2 chords. Just going to pop the camera down again while I play. Hopefully you can actually see a bit of the answer that way. No, it's not going to work. Okay, so here we go. I'll play just the first 3 chords, the given chord plus the next 2. Those last 2 chords. Major, minor, and we can also hear that they are moving by step, up by step. So let's have a look here. If that's major and that's minor, how can we move by step going major to minor? There is only one pair of chords that are consecutive, as in moving by step, that go major minor, 5 to 6. Which would mean we're going A to B. Now, we should be pretty certain that we're right. There could of course be 1 to 2, but we know it wasn't a repeated chord here. Just to double check that we've got the interval right here, we could always listen again. Let me just play it one more time. Da, da, twinkle, twinkle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's why we know now that we've got a correct answer here. D major, A major, B minor, G major, A major, with an imperfect cadence at the end. So there's major chord progressions. Let's now go to minor. So I'm going to jump back to the textbook and let's have a look here. So when we do chord progressions in a minor key, we use the harmonic minor scale. We use the harmonic minor scale because chords create harmonies. Harmonic, harmonies. So that's how you remember to use the harmonic minor. So here's an example in Deborah Smith's textbook where they've written the D minor scale. D harmonic minor scale. We know that it's a D harmonic minor scale because it follows that pattern that if it was a major scale, we're flattening 3 and 6. So just a reminder, D major would have F sharp and C sharp. 1, 2, 3. So it's no longer F sharp, it's F. That's the flattened 3. 4, 5, 6. The B becomes flat. C sharp remains. Cool. Another way to think of it is it's like D natural minor with a raised 7, C sharp, if you prefer to think that way. But if that doesn't make sense, don't worry. Stick to the way I've shown you. So, in a minor key, chord 1 is minor. That's one thing that's always a pattern that stays the same. In major keys, chord 1 is major. In minor keys, chord 1 is minor. Chord 5 is always major. Easy one to remember. And 7 is always diminished. But then the rest of the chords change in order. So, chord 1 is minor, and I'll play these to you now. Then chord 2 is diminished. So we have 2 diminished chords in this key, in a minor diatonic chord set. Chord 3 is augmented. It stands out quite clearly. So if you hear an augmented chord, hopefully you'll get that right straight away. Chord 4 is minor. Chord 5 is major. Chord 6 is also major. So that means an interrupted cadence in a minor key will be major, major. And then last but not least, chord 7 is diminished as well. So how do I remember this? Look, as I mentioned, 1 follows the tonality of the key. In a major key, it's major. In a minor key, it's minor. 5 is always major in both keys, in major and minor tonalities. Chord 7 is always diminished. It's always worth noting, somewhere in the middle is always a pair of majors. In a major key, that pair of majors is 4 and 5. And in a minor key, it's 5 and 6. And then we've got, just in a minor key, diminished for 2, augmented for 3, minor for 4. So we're going to attempt a minor question now. We're going to attempt this one. We can see it's in D minor. So I'm going to change back to the camera and show you how I'll work through an answer like this. And I might actually aim the camera at the worksheet before I turn it on. There we go. So, here is our question in D minor. So, first things first, we need to write out our Roman numerals for a minor key. Hopefully you've got them memorized by now. If not, I'll remind you one more time. They go minor, diminished, augmented, and then minor, major, major, and diminished. Cool. Okay. Let's look at the scale now. So we're in D minor. First I'll write out the letters D through to C anyway. D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Here we go. Looking at the time, we're already 23 minutes in. I don't think we'll do the following page today. We'll save that for another lesson. But just practice these and then go to musictheory.net afterwards, I think, with the time we've got available. So let's have a look here. So firstly, we say in the methodology we use that a harmonic minor scale is a major scale with a flat 3 and a flat 6. So let's see, which of these notes firstly would have been sharp in a major scale? D major needs F and C. F would have been sharp, C would have been sharp. Okay. Before we add those sharps, let's look and see which notes need to be flattened. Harmonic minor, flat 3, flat 6. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3. That F sharp needs to be lowered so it stays as F. We don't need to put the sharp sign there. Let's count through. 3, 4, 5, 6. Flat 3 and flat 6. So that note is just a B, B natural. So we need to flatten it to make it a harmonic minor. And note 7 isn't flattened to make anything minor. It stays as a C sharp based on the key signature. So there are our notes. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to change over back to putting this just the worksheet on the board, on the screen, and play through this. Hopefully I don't have any epic fails on this occasion. I might give it a quick practice with the volume off before I play it to you for real this time. And I think I might just stick to using Deborah Smith's recordings in the future. We live and we learn, hey? Okay, so let's change over and have a go at this question. 5 playings and then I'll work you through it. So, this is the question at the bottom of page 105. I think I can play this properly. Just doing a quick sound check again. Oops, what's going on here? So that's the key we're in. Let's have a go at this question. So first playing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Apologies for the sounds of the dogs barking in the background. They're very protective animals. They're obviously just barking at someone taking a walk out the front of my house. I'll play that chord progression again. Here is your second playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's your third playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is your fourth playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more playing. Here's your fifth and final playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, just jumping back to camera, and we'll go through this answer before finishing up for today. We'll save the other page we're going to look at for a future lesson. Okay, so let's have a look at it. I think right now I'm just going to play you the first two chords again. Let's listen to them. Hopefully you heard that it went down by a semitone. So just a reminder, just because we started on chord 1D, it doesn't mean we can't go down further, and you just return, you go back around to work out what's lower. So D, one note lower than D is C sharp. Hopefully you also heard that the chord didn't sound major or even minor, it's diminished. So it was D minor to C sharp diminished. Okay, I'm going to play it again now on the piano, and what we'll do is we'll ignore chord 3 for a minute. Let's just focus on the cadence. I'll play the first few chords quickly so we can get straight to the cadence. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear that it's landing on the tonic. You're probably asking, is it plagal perfect? If you're not sure by hearing it, you can always use the bass note. Da, ba, da, 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 da. It's down a fifth, and I should have sung a minor scale then. Dun, dun. So if it's down a fifth, it therefore must be 5-1. We also would have heard that it was a major chord to a minor chord to confirm that. And double checking. Da 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 da. Sorry, wrong one. Da 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 da. So A to D. So we just need to work out what chord 3 is. I'll pop the camera down just one more time. What's the tonality? Minor. So we're quite fortunate here because other than chord 1, there is only one other minor chord, and that is chord 4. Oops, yeah. And chord 4 would be G. Da da, da sin san. The interval is, in fact, a tritone up from C sharp, and so we can then confirm that it's G. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the process we use to work out chord progressions in major and minor keys. The only thing we now need to do for year 12 is also go back to look at which chords can have sevenths and what those sevenths are, what the qualities of the sevenths are. Because in the examination you will need to do chord progressions with sevenths. So that's it for today in YouTube Live. Jump back into Zoom if you need to ask me any more questions, and otherwise don't forget that there are 3 sets of musictheory.net questions that I need you to complete every lesson and upload to the week 2 remote learning task. Anyway, signing off from the live stream. Bye for now. See you back in Zoom.